definition of Brahma according to Advaitins, and we were explaining it is Anadhigata, Abhaditartha, so Brahma or valid knowledge is a kind of knowledge which has for its content Artha Vishayaka Jnanam, which is Abhadita and which is Anadhigata. So we were explaining Abhadita in the case of erroneous cognitions like shell silver, there is the sublation of silver at a later date, so it is not valid. So Abhadita Artha Vishayaka Jnanam, not only that, it should also be Anadhigata or unknown hitherto, and we were explaining what is meant by unknown hitherto or what is meant by Anadhigatatva, because in the case of the valid cognition of pot, whenever you have the cognition of pot, what happens? We were explaining the process through which knowledge arises when the sense of sight comes into contact with an object, say pot. Mind comes out through the sense organ. Mind comes out through the respective sense organ. It reaches the place of the object and it assumes modification in the form of that object. And this mental modification is technically known as vritti. So this is the kind of process which takes place irrespective of the validity or irrespective of the cognition, whether it is valid or invalid, whatever be the kind of cognition, mind has to come out through the particular sense organ, reach the place of the object, and it has to assume modification in the form of that object. This is the process Advaitins explain. For example, in the Nyaya school, how does there arise the knowledge of pot? They give a different process. For anybody, there should be sense contact with the object. They say, Atma manasa samyujyate mana indriyena indriyam arthena tataha pratyaksham. So, as and when the sense organ comes into contact with the object, what happens? There is Atma Manas Samyoga. There is the relation of mind with the self. Because any kind of knowledge can arise only when there is Atma Manas Samyoga or the relation of the self and mind. If the mind is not involved, then there is no question of knowledge at all. So this is how they explain. But in the case of the Advaitins, how do they explain? Because according to the Advaitins, the concept of knowledge is something different. So this mental modification, what does it do? The basic position of Advaita we have explained that all objects are superimposed upon the consciousness conditioned by them. So, for example, where is pot? Pot is superimposed upon the consciousness conditioned by pot. So, strictly speaking, the underlying principle or the adhisthana for each and every object in the world is only the pure consciousness or Brahman or ultimate reality or absolute reality, whatever way you may call, the substratal principle happens to be consciousness. That is why objects in this world, although they are insentient, we are able to have the knowledge of the objects, or in other words, the objects are manifested to us because they derive sustenance and manifestation from the underlying reality, namely consciousness, which is of the nature of Sat, Chit and Ananda. So otherwise, there is no question of objects being manifested to us, because this, when I see this duster on the table, I am able to cognize and also give expression to my cognition as there is a duster on the table. Now, how does it happen? How I am able to explain it? Because there is the underlying principle, namely reality. Otherwise, you can rest assured that objects being insentient or jada, they can never be presented in cognition. So the very fact that they are presented in our cognition and we are able to give corresponding expression to it means or proves that the underlying reality happens to be the pure consciousness. Otherwise we cannot have the notion of the object at all. So what happens whenever you see an object, mind, this process takes place and there is a mental modification in the form of that object, provided you are attentive, isn't it? If the mind is not involved, there is no question of mental modification at all. You will be looking at an object, you will be seeing an object. If the mind doesn't get involved, then you are not able to say what it is. You may be constantly looking at an object, thinking of something else. So all that matters in the case of cognition is the involvement of mind. Otherwise one cannot have the notion of any object. So what happens is, when there is the mental modification in the form of objects, so the basic position here is the underlying consciousness, that is, the part is superimposed upon the consciousness conditioned by it. Now this consciousness is veiled by what is known as Thula Vidya or modal ignorance. This is also the basic position of Advaita, because one does not have the knowledge of all objects at all times. Whatever object is within the range of our cognition, only those objects we are able to have knowledge. So the objects with which my sense organ or my mind is not connected with, we do not have the cognition. So basically the object conditioned consciousness or Vishaya Chaitanya, because Vishaya Chaitanya is what we call as object conditioned consciousness, that is being veiled by Thula Vidya. This is uniform. The object with which we do not come into contact with, all such object conditioned consciousness is veiled by Thula Vidya. The moment your sense organ comes into contact with the object, what happens? This mental modification takes place, and this modification, mental modification, removes this Thula Vidya. This mental modification is capable of removing the Thula Vidya or the modal ignorance, concealing the consciousness. So what happens? Now this consciousness, which is devoid of the veil of Thula Vidya, now this consciousness can get reflected in the mental state, because I told you yesterday, it is like the mere wall cannot reflect your face. But the same wall, when a mirror is placed on the wall, then the same wall, in the place conditioned by the mirror, the face gets reflected. In the same way, pot being inert or jada cannot receive the reflection of the consciousness, because the Chaitanya or the consciousness is also veiled by modal ignorance. So in order that the consciousness may get reflected, what we require is, we require vritti or mental modification. Now this mental modification, when it removes this Thula Vidya or modal ignorance, the pure consciousness, that is the object conditioned consciousness, gets reflected in the mental state in the form of pot. Now this is a combination of the consciousness plus mental modification. Vritti we call in Sanskrit. So the Chaitanya or the consciousness gets reflected in the mental state of pot, whatever be the object. So the combination or the collectivity of this mental modification plus consciousness, this is what is known as the empirical cognition of pot, I am Gataha. Or in order to be precise, the consciousness reflected in the mental modification in the form of pot is what is technically known as I am Gataha, or in other words, the vritti or the mental modification inspired by the reflection of the consciousness in it, is what is known as the empirical cognition of part. We will be dealing with this empirical cognition later on. For the present, I want you to understand that every time when the mind comes into contact with the object, what happens? The mind, the mental mode or the mental modification or the vritti, what does it do? It removes the very function of the mental modification is to remove the modal ignorance or the Tula Vidya, which conceals the object conditioned consciousness. Otherwise, objects will not be manifest to us. So now, so in this sense, every object becomes anadigata. The moment I cease to have contact with the object, immediately what happens? There is the veil of Tula Vidya upon the object conditioned consciousness. So, once there is contact, then the modal ignorance gets removed and the object becomes adigata. And the moment there ceases to be any contact with the object, it is anadigata. So the word anadigata, although in the strict sense of the term, the expression means that which is unknown hitherto, which is not known earlier, it should not be understood in that sense. At least in the definition of prama, we have to understand that anadigatatva or unknownness consists in being veiled or concealed by what is known as Tula Vidya or ignorance. So in this sense, even if I have had the cognition of a particular object yesterday, of which I have had the contact, and today I am seeing the same object again, then also it is anadigata because it has ceased to be in front of me. I cease to have any contact with it. So again when I see the object, it is anadigata. Of course, there is no question of bhada, because this Vedanta Paribhasa book, as long as I am going to have contact as I see the object, it is going to be Vedanta Paribhasa book. It is not otherwise at all. So there is no question of bhada or sublation. So whenever I have the cognition of this book on the table, it is going to be prama or valid knowledge. So in this sense, valid knowledge is defined as one which has for its content an object which is anadigata and which is also abhadita. So in this way, he explains the definition. Now, there is a pertinent objection that in the case of, okay, I have the cognition at 7:20 a.m. I see the object part. Now this is anadigata and abhaditartha vishayaka jnana. Now let us consider, I am continuously, let us not have part, I am looking at the idol of Krishna continuously for 10 minutes. So the idol of Krishna, there is a mental modification in the form of the idol of Krishna, and I have cognized it as idol, and I have cognized it, and I know, I have the knowledge that it is the idol of Krishna, and I am constantly looking at the object for 10 minutes. Now the question arises, in the first minute or the first moment, let us have it as moments, 10 moments, kshana. In the first moment, what happens is, it satisfies the definition of prama, because the first moment my sense organ comes in, my mind goes out through the sense organ, reaches the place where the Krishna idol is present, and assumes modification in the form of that object. All this process takes place. I have cognized it to be the idol of Krishna, and I have known it is Krishna's idol. So it is anadigata abhaditartha vishayaka jnana. Now what happens in the second and the subsequent moments? Because the second moment, we are cognizing the very same object, very same idol of Krishna. The third moment, the very same idol of Krishna. So this abhaditatva amsha, or the object should not get sublated, this factor will be present. But what about the anadigatatva amsha? Because we are perceiving the same object continuously. It is called in Sanskrit, in Sanskrit it is called dharavahika buddhi. Dharavahika buddhi means continuous stream cognition. So, the continuous stream cognition of one and the same object, the first moment of the cognition will satisfy the definition anadigata abhadita artha visheka jnanam. But in the second and the subsequent moments of the cognition, you are perceiving the same object, whereby it is not anadigata, it is adigata. You are perceiving an object which is adigata, because there is no question of the removal of avidya in the second and the subsequent moment, because once Tula Vidya has been removed, modal ignorance has been removed, and you are continuously seeing the same object. So, this is what is referred to as a definition. I think you must be aware, but anyway I will explain. There are three defects pertaining to definitions. There are three defects. Lakshanasya trini dushanani. There are three defects pertaining to any kind of definition. For example, when I define a cow, what is the cow means? Somebody asks me, then I say, oh, a cow is that which possesses horns. Suppose I give such a definition. This will not be an exclusive definition for cows, because even buffaloes have horns, goats have horns. So, a definition, the defining feature is such that it is an exclusive feature in the object defined. So, if I give the definition of cow as possession of horns, shringitva, shringitvam goho lakshanam, if I say so, then this definition will be over applicable in objects other than cows. So, this is a defect called as ativyapti or over pervasion of the definition. Supposing I give the definition, Shweta Rupavatvam Goho Lakshanam, possession of white color is the definition of cow. But that will not be present in all cows, only white cows will be white in color. What about the other cows? So, there also you have not defined cows in toto. So, this is a kind of defect where the defining feature exists or it is inapplicable in partial cases, and only it is present in a part of the objects defined. So, it is called partial inapplicability or avyapti it is called. Supposing I give a definition, a cow is a one-hoofed animal, ekashapavatvam goho lakshanam. Supposing I give this as a definition, then cows are two-hoofed animals. Only horses are one-hoofed animals. So, it is a totally inapplicable entity, factor in the case of cows. So, this is a defect called as asambhava. So, whenever we give a definition or whenever we define an object, we should see to it that that defining feature should be free from the three defects of ativyapti, avyapti and asambhava. So also, whenever we define any particular, any concept is being defined, the philosophers see to it that there is no ativyapti or avyapti or asambhava. So only then it can serve as exclusive definition of the object defined. Which one? No. Color of the cows. White color will be there. But the fact is, in cows itself, you have so many colors. Suppose you are defining a group. Let us, for example, have in our universe of Advaita, we have 100 cows. Now we are defining only 100 cows. There are only 100 cows. Now in the 100 cows, 10 cows are white in color. White in color. Now you are asked to define a cow white color. See, ativyapti is a feature which is present in all the objects defined. Not only in all the objects, it is present elsewhere also. Such a kind of defect alone is called ativyapti. Which one? No. See, your question is pertinent, but even then you have to understand. White color, when I give the definition of white color for the cows, it is not present in all the cows. It is present in partially in only 10 cows, for example. The remaining 90 cows are tawny in color or chitrarupa, something is there. So, ativyapti, you can call that as an ativyapta dharma or over pervading element only if it is present in all the 100 cows and present in animals other than the cows. But this is an instance, white color is an instance where it is present only in partially in some cows, that is in 10 cows. That is why, yeah, so that is why it is called partial inapplicability. So now, please. Tula Vidya. Yes, yes, Tula Vidya. Not Tula, Tula. Tula means mode, it is a derivative of Mula Vidya. Opposite of Mula Vidya is Tula Vidya. Because the Tula Vidya has been admitted to, it is many in number, and it has been admitted to conceal the object conditioned consciousness.
Now I am seeing only this board, white board. That means all the other objects other than this board is covered with the Tola Vidya.
Yes. You are not aware of those objects. Maybe you will have Paroksha Jnana. See, you know that somebody is sitting, his name is Thomas, no, your name? Anthony is sitting behind you. All these things you may know, but that is not perceptual knowledge. You have Paroksha Jnana, you have immediate knowledge of so many objects. But when will you call it as perceptual knowledge? Those objects which are directly in front of you, only such knowledge is called Aparoksha Jnana. Yes. Deep sleep state. Yeah. Yes. Because when you don't have contact with objects, you don't have any kind of cognition at all. What happens in the state of deep sleep is another question. You are aware of it because when you come back to waking state, I slept happily, I did not know anything when I was asleep. Now who is the person who has witnessed all this, who has known, because recollection always precedes prior experiences. Somebody should have experienced it. So that is an altogether different issue. So now, I want to explain that the first moment of the cognition alone can satisfy this definition, because it is anadigata abadita artha visheka jnana. Now what happens in the second and subsequent moments? It is cognizing the very same object, and thereby the object becomes adhigata, or which is already known to you. Now the question arises is, in the second and subsequent moments of the stream cognition, the definition is, it is a one single cognition. Dharavahika buddhi or stream cognition is one single unit. 10 moments, it consists of 10 moments, means the whole 10 moments is called one unit. Now within this unit, the definition satisfies only the first moment. In the second and the subsequent moments, the object which is cognized is adhigata, or already known to you. So thereby the question is, whether are we to call the second and the subsequent moments of the cognition as prama or valid at all, because it is not anadhigata abhaditartha visheka jnana, it is adhigata, the second and the subsequent moment the object is already known to you. So thereby in the whole unit of 10 moments, the first moment alone satisfies the definition. So the remaining 9 moments does not satisfy the definition. Thereby there is the defect of avyapti, because if we apply this definition to the whole dharavahika buddhi, in the second and subsequent moments of the cognition, the definition of prama is not applicable. So it is partial inapplicability. Just as we say white color, possession of white color is not present in all the cows, only in 10 cows. The remaining 90 cows are without white color. So if you define, so that is why, how do we define cow? A cow is that which possesses dewlap or sasnavatva. That is the definition which is free from the 3 defects of ativyapti, avyapti and asambhava. So whenever we define an object, we should see to it that it is free from the 3 defects of ativyapti, avyapti and asambhava. So now what happens? The definition, when we are framing a definition, we should see to it that there is no avyapti, but here there arises avyapti, because it does not satisfy, it is not applicable in the second and the subsequent moments of the cognition, because this object is already known or adhigata. So it is not anadhigata abhaditartha visheka jnanam. So this is the question posed. For this, the Advaitins answer that in the case of the Dharavayika Buddhi, let us have first, second, third. So in this way, we have till 10 moments. Now what happens is, we were mentioning yesterday that the Advaitins, for the sake of explaining phenomenal state of existence, they always are in tune with the Bhatta school of Mimamsakas. So, or even Mimamsakas in general. Now the school of Nyaya, they prescribe a rule that any substance, if it should come within the range of perception, visual perception, then it must be possessed of color, isn't it? Any object, in order to come within the range of visual perception, should you not require color? Otherwise, can you imagine or can you think of an object which comes within the range of visual perception and which yet does not possess color? No. So any object, if it should come within the range of perceptual knowledge, visual perception, it must necessarily possess color. So this is the rule they prescribe. Udbhuta Rupa, manifest color. An object, if it should come within the range of visual perception, it must possess manifest color. And the Nayayikas, the school of Nyaya, classify substances into 9. Prithvi, Ap, Tejas, Vayu, Akasha, Kala, Dik, Atma, Manas. These are the 9 substances. So under substances, we have Kala. Kala or time is a substance from the Nyaya school. And this Kala, it does not come within the range of cognition, perceptual cognition, because it is devoid of any color. Only Prithvi, Ap, Tejas, these 3 possess color and they come within the range of cognition. Since Kala does not possess any color, it cannot come within the range of cognition. Whereas the Mimamsa school, they consider that Nirupasyapi Kalasya Indriya Vedyatva Abhyupagamat. Although Kala is devoid of any color, it does come within the range of cognition. Indriya Vedyatvam. Indriya Vedyatvam means it is capable of being perceived, they say. No, how could it be perceived? Because it is not possessed of any color. So they say, for example, the object part, when I am looking in the first moment, the object as associated with the first moment is being perceived. In the second moment, I am seeing a different object. Even when I look into an object for 10 moments continuously, what happens is, the object as associated with the first moment has to be necessarily different from the object which I am looking at, because the time differs. I am not seeing the same object with reference to what I saw at, because at least in this sense, no, you have to admit, Sankhya, they say, Rite Chiti Shaktehi. Every moment, the object keeps on changing. You are buying a car from the showroom and you are just driving it to your house. You say, this is my new car. But strictly speaking, it is not a new car. It is not the same car which was there in the showroom. You have brought it here and it has become old already. Every moment it keeps on changing, because there is parinama every moment, although it is unnoticed. See, imagine for a while, I am 50 years old. Have I become 50-year-old all of a sudden? No. Every day, we have to admit there are Shadbhava Vikaras. Jayate, Asti, Viparinamate, Apakshiyate, Nashyati. Jayate, Asti, Vardate, Viparinamate, Apakshiyate, Nashyati. So this kind of Shadbhava Vikaras, 6 kind of modifications, they keep on taking place in each and every object. So also, when you are looking at an object for the first moment, you are looking at the object as associated with the first moment. So naturally, the object as associated with the second moment has to be different from the object which you have looked at the first moment. So the Advaitins, for a while, adhering to the viewpoint of the Purvapakshin or the opponent, he answers that the idol of Krishna, which I have cognized in the first moment, has to be necessarily different from the idol which I am going to see in the second moment. So in this sense, even if you are looking at an object continuously, not only for 10 moments, even for the whole day if you are looking at it, it has to be anadigata in each and every moment. So whether it is a dharavayika buddhi or a single moment of cognition, it will be anadigata, because in the second moment, the idol of Krishna which you are seeing is anadigata, because you are seeing idol of Krishna as associated with the second moment, as associated with the third moment, as associated with the fourth moment. So in this way, what happens is, there is the difference in the moments, so there is also difference in the cognitions. So it is not the same idol of Krishna, and although it is a dharavayika buddhi, it becomes anadigata in each and every successive moment of the cognition. This answer is given. So there is no avyapti. When will there be avyapti? Only if we are not able to apply the definition as a whole in the second and the subsequent moments, there will be avyapti. But what happens here? The first moment it is anadigata abaditartha vishayaka jnana. In the second moment again it is anadigata abaditartha. So where is the question of avyapti? That is why he says na avyapti shankapi. There is no question of avyapti at all, he says. But this is an answer given by the Advaitin adhering to the moment of the viewpoint of the opponent. But strictly speaking, the Advaitins do not subscribe to this view at all. They say that in the case of dharavahika buddhi or the continuous stream cognition, what do we say? What do we admit? If it is going to be a dharavahika buddhi for 10 minutes or 20 minutes or 1 hour, whatever be the time sequence, yavat gataspuranam, so long as I perceive the object, that is one single unit, one unitary cognition. Even if it is a dharavahika buddhi, I cannot, because the Advaitins do not admit kala as a substance, nor do they admit that it comes within the range of perception. This is a case with the Mimamsa school. This is the case with the Nayayikas, that they do not admit. But the Advaitins admit for a while that in keeping with the Mimamsa school, they admit that it comes within the range of cognition. But strictly speaking, for the Advaitins, he is not in an obligation to explain this dharavayika buddhi in this way. He says the whole of the 10 moments constitutes one single unit, unitary cognition. It is a unitary cognition. So he says, as long as there is the manifestation of this Krishna idol, yavat gataspuranam, so long there is the cognition of pot, tavat gatakara antakarana vrittihi ekaiva. What happens? My mind has gone to the place where Krishna idol is present, and it has assumed modification in the form of the Krishna idol, and till the moment I cease to have any contact with the Krishna idol, that is going to be one single unitary cognition, because I am not seeing here or there, I am just looking at the object continuously for 10 moments. So that is one single unitary cognition. So there is no question of the difference in the moments at all there, because as I said earlier, what has happened here? The Krishna idol, the consciousness conditioned by the Krishna idol, that is being concealed by ignorance, and that ignorance has been removed, and I have cognized it as Krishna idol, and I will be continuously perceiving that Krishna idol for 10 moments as Krishna idol alone and nothing else. So yavat gataspuranam, so long there is the manifestation of a particular object, even in dharavayika buddhi, that cognition continues to exist. Till what time? Till there arises a contrary mental state. Suppose I don't look at the Krishna idol, I am seeing something else. Then this cognition comes to an end. So yavat gataspuranam, tavat Gatakara antakarana vrittihi, the mental modification in the form of that particular object continues to exist. So where is the question of avyapti at all? Avyapti or partial inapplicability would arise only if I admit difference within the cognition. But strictly speaking, I don't admit any kind of difference. Even if it is going to be for one whole day, the whole cognition is only one single unitary cognition. So, tavat gataspuranam and gatakara antakarana vrittihi ekaiva, it is one only. Because I am looking at the same object. My mind has undergone modification. There is the mental, there is the reflection of the consciousness in that mental modification, and I will be looking at the same idol. It is the same knowledge I continue to have. So there is no difference in the cognition at all. So tavat gatakara antakarana vrittihi ekaiva natu nana. So this is the position of the Advaitin. Natu, he does not admit difference within the cognition. So there is no question of avyapti would arise provided I admit the object to be different in each and every moment. Is it clear? So there is no difference in the cognition at all. So there is no question of avyapti in the dharavayika buddhi. This is the answer given by the Advaitin. Now, can I proceed further? I have to explain abhadi tattva. Now, what happens is there is a Upanishadic text which speaks of all the objects of the world to be mithya or indeterminable or false or illusory. Objects of the world are illusory according to the Advaitins. Now, at least those of us who read Vedanta, we are aware of the fact, although we are not able to intuitively experience or have this feeling that objects are not real. At least we know, we have at least the knowledge that all the objects of the world are only illusory. Although they are adapted to practical needs of life, yet they are illusory from the Advaitic point of view. So this kind of knowledge every one of us have. Now the question arises, even if I have the knowledge of pot, it is anadigata, all these is okay. But how do you say that it is real? Because the Advaitins make a division of reality into three. That is Paramarthika Satya, Vyavaharika Satya and Pratibhasika Satya. Paramarthika Satya is absolute reality. Vyavaharika Satya is provisional reality or phenomenal state of existence, provisional temporal reality. And Pratibhasika Satya is apparent reality. Now, for the Advaitins, Brahman alone is Paramartha Sat, absolutely real, because that which will never suffer annihilation in the three divisions of time, past, present and future, that alone is Paramartha Sat or absolutely real. Now, Brahman alone would satisfy this definition because it is Traikalika Abhadyatvam. In the three divisions of time, past, present and future, Brahman will never suffer annihilation. There is no point of time when Brahman will not exist because it is Satya. So, Traikalika Abhadyatvam, Brahmanaha Paramarthika Satyatvam. It is absolutely real or ultimately real. Brahman is ultimately real. Now, let us come one step down and say, what about the objects of the world? All objects of the world are not absolutely real like Brahman, because objects like whatever object, like pot is practically efficient in bringing water. How can you say that it is not real? I am able to write with a pen, I am able to speak with the mic, I am able to look at the mirror. All objects appear to be very, very real than even Brahman to me. How do you say that it is not, they are not real? Okay, they will appear to be real so long one has the knowledge of Brahman. Till there arises the knowledge of Brahman, till there arises Brahma Sakshatkara, all these objects will be real. Because although we have the knowledge from the books that they are not real, yet do I not write with a pen? Do I not make use of pot? Do I not make use of a book? Everything I carry on my activities, secular activities with all these objects. But all these would take place till there arises the knowledge of Brahman. So they are all provisionally real. Provisionally real in the sense, you have the objects of dream. You see that you are riding on an elephant, and the moment you come back to the waking state, you think, oh, I have seen it only in a dream. So it was provisionally real. Only when you have the dream experience, it appears to be real. But on coming back to waking state, you think that what you have experienced is not real. In the same way, this Jagrad Avastha or the waking state also is a Dirgha Swapna. Dirgha Swapna means it is a prolonged dream. When you have Brahma Sakshatkara, when you realize yourself, whatever you have experienced in the waking state, Jagrad Avastha, whatever you have experienced in the phenomenal state of existence, all this would be understood or would be known to you as a Dirgha Swapna. Just as after coming back to the waking state, whatever that was experienced by you in the dream state is known to be not real, is known to be only provisionally real. In the same way, whatever you have experienced in this state, waking state, will appear to be swapna or dream perception when one has the knowledge of Brahman. So, what the Advaitins say that all the objects of the phenomenal state of existence, they are real. But how long are they real? Till one has the knowledge of intuitive experience of Brahman. Once there arises the knowledge of Brahman, yatra tu asya sarvam atmaiva abhut tat kena kampashet. I am seeing, I am teaching, all of you are sitting in front of me. All these secular activities will take place only when there is a kind of difference in the karana or difference in the experience. But when one realizes Brahman, yatra tu asya Brahma sakshatkaravataha purushasya, he who has realized Brahman, he cannot see any difference in other beings. He will see his own self in all the beings. So there is no question of I and you. There is no question of difference in the cognition. So whatever object he sees in the world, he will see only the underlying reality. He will see his own self in all beings, whether sentient or insentient. So yatra tu asya sarvam atmaiva bhut. So what happens then when he sees his own self in all beings? Even if he sees an inert object, he will see it as Brahma Swarupa. Shunichaiva Shwapakecha Pandita Samadarshinaha. The Pandita, the wise people, see their own self in all beings. When such is the case, what happens? He will realize that realized soul will realize all objects of the world as mithya or illusory. This is a kind of realization which one has, that objects of the world are illusory. But when that will arise only when there arises Brahman, knowledge of Brahman or Brahma Sakshatkara. But without understanding this particular point, the opponent raises an objection. Okay, well, I have been reading Advaita for so many years and I have known that objects of the world according to Advaita are only illusory. So you say, whenever I have the knowledge of pot, I do have the knowledge that it is illusory also, it is mithya also. So is there not sublation of the fact that it is not real? Because I know whenever I look into an object, I know for certainty that it is not real also. So gatadinam mityatvena badhitatvat. All objects of the world according to Advaita are known to be mithya or illusory. So is there not badha or sublation for the cognition that they are all mithya? Because at least we have been given to know that objects of the world are mithya. So whenever I look into an object, it may be anadigata, but do I not have the cognition that it is mithya? So mithyatvena badhitatvat. So how could there be any cognition which is valid at all for the Advaitin? Because all objects of the world will be known as mithya or illusory. This is the question put by the opponent. Mityatvena badhitatvat katam tadjnanam prama. How can you label any cognition as valid at all? Because we know, for those of us who read Vedanta, will know for certainty that objects of the world are mithya. So mityatvena gatadinam mityatvena badhitatvat katam tadjnanam prama. For that, the Advaitins say, okay, mityatvena badhita. Mityatvena badha, when can you admit mityatvena badha? Provided one has the realization of Brahman. All of us do have the cognition that objects of the world are mithya. But do we not make use of the object? Is it an intuitive experience? No, not at all. Because my professor used to give me an example. Suppose somebody attends a marriage, and a person could be satisfied only with food. The more and more you give food, stomach should accept it. Once it becomes full, it does not accept. But what happens? Badam kheer is being served, and supposing I am offered badam kheer, no, my stomach is full, I cannot take any more. But I'm being asked, shall I give it in a vessel? Will you take home and drink in the evening? Yes, please give. Because this is the way we keep on asking, we keep on aspiring for having more and more. So although we know that objects of the world are not real, yet we do want to possess more and more, because the knowledge which we have of the knowledge which we have of the objects of the world, it is only paroksha jnana or mediate knowledge. We have learnt from books that the Advaitins consider objects of the world as non-real or mithya. But this is not an intuitive experience. It is only a realized soul who has the intuitive experience that objects of the world are mithya. So, yatra hi dvaitamiva bhavati tad itaraha itaram pashyati. In the phenomenal state of existence, one sees the other. I carry on the activities that I am doing. I am writing with pen. I am walking with an umbrella. All these activities take place. But yatra tu sarvam atmaiva abhut tat kena kampashet. All these activities cease to exist, because when one sees the self same being in all the beings, there is no question of difference at all. So strictly speaking, only then you have the badha. So that kind of badha we are not concerned with, because we are speaking about vyavaharika jnana or empirical cognition. We are defining in terms of empirical existence. So our prama strictly confines, this definition strictly confines only to the objects of the empirical world. So gatadinam mityatvena badha may take place, but when does it take place? It takes place only when there arises the knowledge of Brahman. So he says the word abhadita in the definition of prama should be understood with restricted force. That is vyavahara dashayam abhaditatvam. That is sublation during the phenomenal state of existence. Abhadita, non-sublation during the phenomenal state of existence. So whenever I see this duster, I am going to perceive this as a duster till there arises the knowledge of Brahman. It is not going to be otherwise. So the definition of prama is confined to this principle, that is, it should be not only anadhigata, it is abhadita. And when it is abhadita, at what time? During the phenomenal state of existence. When viewed from the realistic point of view, that is the realized soul's point of view, it will get badita. So there is no question of, because he will see his own self. There is no question of, he will never make any distinction between one object and the other. So we are defining prama during the phenomenal state of existence, that it is called vyavaharika jnana. Vyavaharika jnana means it is empirical cognition. So our definition serves the purpose during the phenomenal state of existence. So anadhigata, abhadita, arthavisheka jnanam prama. This is the definition. And for that he gives a quotation. It is a quotation देहात्म प्रत्ययः यद्वत् प्रमाणत्वेन कल्पितः लौकिकं तद्वदेव idam pramanam tu atmanischayat. So the cognitions which we have with regard to the attributes of the body, that is aham gauraha, aham stulaha, aham krishaha, all these dehatma pratyaha means dehe atmatva pratiti, that is the cognition. Your body is different from the self, yet there is a false identification of the body and the self, and you attribute all the you falsely superimpose the attributes of the body with the self, and you say I am fat, I am tall, I am so and so, so and so. So all these cognitions will be considered valid till there arises the knowledge of Brahman. Once there arises the knowledge of Brahman, the pratiti or the cognition which you have, that I am so and so, so and so, all these would vanish. In the same way, laukikam tadvadeva idam, all the knowledge, the empirical cognitions which you have in the phenomenal state of existence, they would continue to be valid till there atmanishchayat. Atmanishchayat means till there arises the knowledge of Brahman, they would continue to be valid. When there arises the knowledge of Brahman, there is no question of difference at all. So this is the definition. Should I stop here? It is 8 o'clock or? No, Vyavaharika Jnana is different from Vyavaharika. Vyavaharika Satya means provisional reality. Objects of the world are provisionally real, means till there arises the knowledge of Brahman, they will be considered to be real. They are all practically efficient. Now coming to, I have left one more point, that is Pratibhasika Satya, apparently real objects. Apparently real object, for example, shell silver is apparently real. Now what happens? The apparently real objects get sublated during the phenomenal state of existence itself, because you perceive silver in shell. And further analysis, or when you are being prompted by somebody who instructs you that it is only shell and not silver, then you have the real knowledge of the substratum, namely shell. So the apparently real objects get sublated during the phenomenal state of existence itself. So empirical objects would get sublated only when there arises the knowledge of Brahman. So Brahmajnana Badhyatvam Vyavaharika Satyatvam. Objects which would get sublated by the knowledge of Brahman, they are considered to be provisionally real. Till such time, you will consider them to be real, provisionally real. But there are instances of erroneous cognition which would get sublated even during the phenomenal state of existence. For example, my dream state comes to an end when I come to the waking state. All objects of dream state are apparently real, because I no more continue to have my dream in the waking state, isn't it? So the apparently real objects, Brahmajnana Itarajnana Badhyatvam, they get sublated by knowledge other than the knowledge of Brahman. That is, the knowledge of shell gives rise to the cognition that it is not silver. Nedam Rajatam, this is not silver, this is only shell. So the knowledge of the true nature of the substratum gives rise to the cognition that it is not silver, it is not the superimposed entity, that is silver. What is the removal of the superimposed entity is nothing but being reduced to the knowledge of the substratum. When you have the real true nature of the knowledge of the substratal principle, then the silver experience, or the Rajju Sarpa, in the case you perceive rope as serpent. Now this rope, either the serpent or the silver, does it really exist? No, it does not exist, because there is no question of the serpent moving away from the rope, because correction lies in the hand which has committed the mistake. You have mistaken it to be serpent. So you have to know, you have to realize that it is not a serpent. You have to realize that it is not silver. So when once you realize that it is not silver, because when you switch on the light, oh, this is only a piece of shell, this is only a rope. So you have realized that it is not, you have realized the true nature of the substratum, that is, it is a rope or it is shell. So when one has the knowledge of the true nature of the substratum, then the superimposed entity that gets destroyed. So in the case of the apparently real objects, what happens is they get sublated even within the phenomenal state of existence. So they are considered to be apparently real or pratibhasika satya, in the sense they will appear to exist only at the time when they are mistaken or when they are perceived to be so. They would not continue. If there is no sublating cognition at all, one will be ever thinking that shell is a piece of silver. That is totally different. But we are speaking of the conditions where one has a sublating cognition. So there are three levels of reality, that is paramarthika satyatva, vyavaharika satyatva and pratibhasika satyatva. Now we are speaking of a place where vyavaharika, that is vyavaharika jnana means empirical cognitions are those which would continue to be valid, till there arises the knowledge of Brahman. So all activities which we carry on during the phenomenal state of existence, they have to be treated valid, because till there arises the knowledge of Brahman, we cannot consider them or we cannot set them aside. We have to carry on our activities, because see, there is a story. Somebody said a person was, an elephant was chasing an Advaitin. And an Vishishtadvaitin put a question: why do you run even if an elephant chases? It is all mithya for you. Why do you chase? Why do you run when the elephant chases you? Oh sir, the elephant chasing me is mithya. My running also is mithya. So everything is mithya. Antato gatva mayikatvan nadoshaka. So everything is mithya for me, for the Advaitin. But all these are mithya. One could say all this only when there arises the knowledge of Brahman. But till such time, everything is true, because otherwise, that is why Shankara says in one of his works, Advaitam trishu lokeshu nadvaitam guruna saha. You can speak of non-duality everywhere, but not with the preceptor, because you are one with me means, how can you, there must be a preceptor to teach you. The great sayings, Tattvamasi Mahavakya should be imparted by a preceptor. Oh, you are also one with me, I am one with you. You can say this. Once you have the knowledge of Brahman, then one can say. So, Advaitam Trishu Lokeshu, Nadvaitam Gurunasaha. So, this non-duality can be spoken only in the whole world. But when can you speak? Till there arises the knowledge of Brahman. We have to carry on our activities. So, we have to converse with each other. We have to maintain difference, isn't it?